Hello and welcome everyone to a new video. Today we have another AI art created for the channel. A beautiful wedding between the Leaf and his wife. And this actually does play into today's video because we are going to be talking about the worst wedding that I've ever photographed. But before we get into that, I want to announce another giveaway. That's right. All of you who got your prizes in the last video were telling me just how much you liked your prize and enjoyed having the prize in your possession. Yeah, you all said that and it was really cool. So today's giveaway is gonna be, gift cards. Yeah, so we're giving away $200 worth of gift cards. 3 people are going to be getting $50 gift cards, and the grand prize winner, $100 gift card. That's right. So all you need to do to sign up to this great giveaway is leave a comment down below saying, "Hey Leaf, I really love your content and I want the gift cards that you're giving away." And yeah, and then you'll get the gift cards. Everyone will actually be a winner because I would be really sad if someone didn't win. Alright, so this is a video that you can like fall asleep to or something, or like leave in the background, because it's just gonna be like me reading this story. So let's get into it. I've been a wedding photographer for nearly 10 years, and I thought I'd seen it all. Trashy, beautiful, tragic, hilarious, or just bizarre. I have stories. I have the typical groom get caught and getting it on with the maid of honor. Family getting into brawls. Brides odding in the bathroom. ODing in the bathroom. Gay couples having no one attend their weddings. Parentheses, or worse, the one uninvited homophobic relative crashing just to be a dick. The other parenthesis, the right one. Stories. But we aren't here for the typical stories. If we were, we'd be here all day. We're here for the wedding from last October. Fall weddings are probably... Sorry, I need... If I ever get married, I'll probably get hitched in the fall. It was the parents of the bride who came to me asking for my services for a wedding in 2 weeks. Their original photographer apparently up and left. Their original photographer apparently up and quit on them. And they were desperate to have their darling's daughter's wedding immortalized in picture format. Luckily for them, I had a clear substitute. I did charge them quite a bit extra for the suddenness of it all, but judging by the father's Rolex, it wasn't that big a deal. One thing I'm good at guessing is a family's wealth status, and once again I was on point. The Seawrights were rolling in dough. Not that I really like them, though. It's not required to like all my clients, although it does make things a bit more relaxing. Harold C. Wright absolutely leered at my chest whenever he thought I wasn't looking, and Carol was clearly the trophy wife that was all over the hill. I've seen a human being that genuinely looked more like plastic than her. Nothing wrong with plastic surgery or Botox, but there's gotta be something to cut off at some point. I think I should have been more put off by the parents coming to me rather than the bride. But I figured, said the bride, was busy with other wedding planning shit, and I didn't think too hard on it. Day came and, oh boy, I realized I was getting into something I didn't want to be a part of right away. First time I saw the bride, Tanya, I had a brief moment of, I do not know how old this girl is. She could have been 16. She could have been just 18. Definitely not over 20, though. I've seen young marriages when it's a shotgun affair, but then I met the groom, Marcel Wingate, who was definitely no younger than 30, and Marcel was just something fell off. The man was a giant for one. He towered over me, let alone Tanya. With his long pale face and sunken eyes, he could have been funkin' Lurch from the Addams Family. When he shook my hand and introduced himself, I barely repressed a shiver. But years of practice helped me to smile and act like there wasn't something slimy about all this. Tanya said a word when she was made over her big day. Only Carol did, chirping and twittering about how about you make her hair a little bigger, or make her eyes pop. She has such pretty eyelashes. Luckily, Carol had to go have a smoke break every 15 minutes, so the makeup and hair people could have a moment to actually work. By the time it was all over, Tanya looked perfect. Her dress was basically a white ball gown. A tiara was placed on her strawberry blonde hair. Cheeks. Blushing. A. Perfect pink. But unlike most brides, she still hasn't had a single word, and those weren't sure as hell tears of joy she was holding back. I'm sure you've heard about the first look photo fad. I find it great that perfect expression a groom makes when he sees the bride in her dress for the first time. It's usually quite cute. This was the first time I've shot first look photo where first I truly believe it was the first time the bride and groom have actually looked at each other. Marcel did seem to have his breath taken away by his lovely bride, but her expression was less than thrilled as he took her hand and gave it a light, a tight squeeze. My stomach turned when he leaned in for a kiss on the cheek, and she quite obviously flinched. It's time I put a pin on the myth that arranged marriages are only in foreign countries, and only people from certain cultures take part in it. They happen all the time in the US, and more often, it's not. It's an old man who wants a virgin bride. And by virgin, I mean still in fucking high school. This wouldn't be the first one I hired to photograph. I managed to catch Tanya alone in the room she got ready in, sitting next to the open window and twirling an unlit cigarette between her fingers. Need a light? I offered as I came in. No thanks, I don't need a smoke. But they say it makes you feel better, right? She said, looking up at me with those doll-like blue eyes. It also gives you lung and throat cancer. I took the cigarette from her and lit it up for myself, but I'm a bad example, so do as I say, not as I do. Now that got a smile out of her, even if it only lasted a second. How often do you smoke? She asked. Depends on the day. Usually I have 2 or 3. Bad day, I can have a few more. I lowered the cigarette and looked down at her. How old are you, Tanya? 19, 20 in a few weeks. I have a bit of a baby face. She poked one of her cheeks. Why do you care? I glanced at the door to make sure Carol wasn't going to barge in. Tanya, are you not okay with this? The wedding? I asked quietly. Tanya, eyes wide. Damn, you're good. She glanced at the door. Harold, my stepdad, arranged all of this. If he had it his way, it would have happened when I was 15. But Marcel kept delaying. Business, apparently. He tried to delay another year, but my dad implied he had other offers. I need to slow down. I'm sorry, I just get too excited. She shivered and wrapped her arms around herself. If I said no, Harold would kick me out and cut me off, frozen my bank account. I'd have nothing and no one, and I don't know what I'd do if that happened. I reached into my purse and pulled out one of my business cards. Flip the card over. It has a number for a women's shelter. They specialize in helping women escape from dangerous situations, hides them, helps them get started in a new city if need be. Below that is my personal home number. If you need to talk, okay? Tanya took the card and clung onto it tightly before tucking it into her bra. You might be one of the nicest people I've ever met, she murmured. I gave her shoulder a squeeze. I try, I said, before extinguishing the cigarette on the windowsill. If you need to escape any time tonight, let me help you to the bathroom, and we can pull a whole runaway bride, I joked. That got another laugh out of her. Just in time for her mom to pop into the room. What's taking so long? Hurry up. The wedding's going to be starting in 15 minutes. And I don't want you to cry and make your face all blotchy and ugly, she whined. Tanya's brief joy faded and she gave me one sad look before following her mother out. How long is this? Oh no. Where were we? Do you guys remember? Okay. I found it. The ceremony would have been much more beautiful if I didn't know the dirty little secret behind it all. Tanya didn't smile once. I didn't even think one of those bridesmaids was an actual friend of hers, or at least not a sincere one. When the priest said, "You may kiss the bride," Tanya let out one tear, slipped down her cheek when Marcel leaned down to kiss her. I was seriously considering calling the cops. But what could they do? Tanya would likely cave and say nothing was wrong. And since she wasn't a minor, they couldn't label Marcel a pedo and her stepfather a child seller. It still didn't make the situation any less shitty. All I could do was snap pictures of the worst day of Tanya's life. At the reception, I was constantly being nagged by Carol about what photos to take, to the point where I wanted to rip her hair out. But I did notice something about the first dance between the couple. Tanya at first was stiff as a board, reluctant to even touch Marcel. But he leaned down and whispered something in her ear. Her entire demeanor changed in a blink of an eye to one of surprise. And I managed to read her lips. Really, Marcel nodded, and I managed to catch a picture of the first smile Tanya had since she said, "I do," by the end of the dance. She was starting to get into it, resting her head on his chest as they swayed to 1,000 years. It was a complete 180 change. Tanya was now one of the happiest, and I dare say it flirtiest brides I've ever seen. She even leaned up to kiss him on the cheek as they sat down. Something that even took Marcel by surprise, judging by how he blushed. I genuinely started to wonder if Marcel slipped something in her drink to get her acting so happy when Carol started to nag me again about where her husband was. She was the kind of mother who forgot this was her child's wedding instead of her own. She wanted pictures of her and Harold. In order to get the fuck away from her, I told her I'd go find him. He'd been hitting the open bar for a little hard that night. I assumed he was in the bathroom, either throwing up or cheating his wife. It could have gone either way at that point. When I approached the men's room, I heard something that sounded like gargling and swallowing. Ew, I know, but I kind of hoped to ruin this nasty bitch's day if her husband was really cheating. So I opened the bathroom door with my camera at the ready. I made eye contact with Harold, or rather, I made eye contact with Harold's head. He was sitting on the sink, expression twisted in an abject horror, the room soaked with blood, body parts strewn around on the floor. Meanwhile, Marcel had stripped out of his tuxedo and was currently swallowing Harold's arm whole. Now I was wondering if I'd had something slipped into my champagne. Humans can't just unhinge their jaw like that, each gulp taking Marcel's arm deeper down his throat. I saw the tips of Harold's fingers disappear with a small wave of goodbye. And then I dropped my camera. Yes, I've heard of something break. No, I didn't care. I just saw the groom eat the damn father of the bride. Marcel's head shot up and his eyes were a dull, watery gray, but now they were muddled brown and red with slitted pupils. I felt frozen when those eyes looked at me. I'm terribly sorry. One moment. Marcel turned to the sink that was free of a man's head and vomited. I heard several things clatter on the pokelin before he fetched them out and washed them. With an embarrassed clearing of his throat, he walked up to me and pulled me into the bathroom. I thought I was dead, but instead Marcel placed several diamonds in my palm. I thought I was dead, but instead Marcel placed several diamonds in my palm. For the camera, I didn't mean to startle you, he said. I managed to get out as I stared at several literal handful diamonds. This would pay for the camera. Why did you devour Harold? Oh, I've wanted to do that. To do for years. Marcel chuckled as he grabbed some paper towels to wipe off his chin, like that would take away from the fact that he was still naked and bloody in front of me. A terrible person actually tastes quite divine. You would taste absolutely terrible. It would be like swallowing nails. Meanwhile, a man who offers his own daughter as a sacrificial lamb to something he knows eats humans, he tastes like the richest cut of steak cooked medium rare and seasoned to perfection. Jesus Christ, this twisted situation had taken a whole new level of fucked up. Wait, he's serious? Oh, absolutely, Marcel snorted, and he'd do it again. All of what happens when my stomach possesses human bone. I clutched the diamonds. You're not gonna hurt Tanya, I asked. Marcel shook his head vigorously. God, no. I kept delaying the wedding in hopes she'd manage to find a way out, but I think Harold was getting cold feet. There were plenty of other people willing to pay for her, even if my payment would be easily thrice what others would offer. God, I was starting to feel dizzy. Here I was talking to a human eating groom. I glanced out the door and a horrible idea entered my brain, one that would surely earn Marcel's good favor and help out Tanya. So if I told Carol she could find her husband in the men's locker room, I asked. Marcel seemed puzzled for a second, but caught on quickly. With a nod, he picked up the head and tossed it into one of the stalls. I heard it splash on one of the toilets, and I almost started giggling. I was nearly hysteria. Go right ahead, I'll be waiting, he said as he kicked limbs out of sight. I almost left, but then had one more question. What the hell are you? Marcel cocked his head to the side before he changed just for a second. One moment he was a blood-soaked man, absolutely horrifying but normal. The next he was a snake. Sort of. His body was gone, replaced by the body of an anaconda, but the head was still the same, minus the flick of a slim. forked tongue from his mouth, then he was back to normal. He responded with a shrug. Funnily enough, I was hoping you'd tell me. I don't have a clue. I left the bathroom and bumped into Carol almost immediately in the hallway. Well, where is he? She snapped. I pointed my thumb towards the bathroom. Think he's not feeling so well, I said before I nearly bowled over the grumpy bitch. I watched long enough for her to open the door, and for a scaled tail to shoot out, snag her around the arm, drag her back into the bathroom before I headed back to the wedding. The problem seemed to solve itself that night. Marcel came back. The men's room locked after apparently someone got quite sick in there. Tanya no longer had to behave a certain way to please her mom, and I think she had a good night. I used my back up camera to make sure to get all of the pictures of her smiling. Carol and Harold vanished into thin air, never to be seen or heard from again, and those diamonds paid for quite the nice new camera. Like I said, I'm sure as hell I haven't forgotten that wedding. But what prompted me to share it was that I got a friend request from Tanya on Facebook. I normally don't accept friend requests from previous clients, but this one time I chose to make an exception. She does look so much better. She's going to college. She now sculpts and paints. She regularly volunteers at women's shelters I directed her to when we first met. Me. And every Friday night is group date night at the local arcade with some of Marcel's friends that now appear to be her friends as well. Apparently, Marcel is quite the dance revolution master, but is terrible at shooting games. Her most recent picture was her and Marcel smiling, and she holding up the ultrasound picture. So, I hope you'll get sleep tonight, but this is a no sleep story. So, if you're going to be up all night anyways scared from the story, please watch some of my other YouTube videos. This has been Leaf signing out.